After the Queen Mother of the West completely disappeared, Jialan remained silently kneeling on the ground, not getting up for a long time. Looking at the blue-clad figure abandoned in front of the elixir hall, everyone felt somewhat helpless. Although they hadn't spent much time with Jialan, this young woman was indeed likable. They didn't know what had happened, only that Jialan seemed to have been expelled from Yaoqi because of Lin Qie. Immediately their gazes toward Lin Qie turned unfriendly, all wearing expressions of looking at a scumbag. Lin Qie heaved a long sigh, walked to Jialan's side, and was immediately met with a face streaming with tears. "Do you hate me?" Lin Qie asked softly. Jialan glared at him fiercely, her fair fist heavily striking Lin Qie's chest as she cried out. "I told you not to save me, not to save me. But you had to take the opportunity to stuff the immortality pill in my mouth. Now look, even the Queen Mother doesn't want me anymore. You jerk, 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 jerk." Jialan's fists fell like raindrops on Lin Qie, who didn't dodge, just letting her pound on him for a long while without making a sound. After some time, Jialan looked down at her reddened fists and cried even more sorrowfully. "Feel better?" Lin Qie asked. "No." Jialan wiped away her tears, punched Lin Qie once more, then quietly hid her trembling hand behind her back. "I know you gave me the immortality pill to save me, but I'm just a pearl spirit. My mission was only to serve the Queen Mother. Apart from occasionally accompanying her for archery to relieve boredom, I barely even know how to fight. How could I bear such an important thing? Now it's done. The Queen Mother doesn't want me, Yaoqi doesn't want me. I'm completely alone." Looking at Jialan's red-rimmed eyes, Lin Qie suddenly felt guilty. Currently, Jialan was just a pearl spirit nurtured by the Queen Mother. Strictly speaking, the Queen Mother was her mother, and she was just an innocent girl with little experience of the world, the kind who could easily be tricked and sold to a brothel. Because of him, the Queen Mother had expelled Jialan. It was like a daughter going out to mess around with street thugs, getting pregnant, and being discovered by her parents, who immediately kicked her out and severed the mother-daughter relationship. And the most wronged was Jialan. She never intended to elope. But Lin Qie had no choice. He couldn't just watch Jialan die before his eyes, could he? He instinctively replied, "It's okay. If they don't want you, I want you." As soon as these words left his mouth, Lin Qie wanted to slap himself, feeling more and more like a scumbag who deceived an innocent girl. Jialan glared at him impatiently, staggering to her feet. "This is all your fault. Of course you have to take responsibility. At least help me find a job in the mortal world, one where I can eat my fill." Hearing this, Lin Qie's mouth twitched violently as he forcibly suppressed his amusement and calmly asked, "Any other requirements?" Jialan thought carefully. "Yes. I won't do that job where you wear very little clothing and dance in front of crowds." "All right." Lin Qie turned around, continuously massaging his facial muscles that were about to cramp, taking 2 deep breaths to calm himself down. Lin Qie stepped toward the others nearby, about to say something, but found them all looking at him with strange expressions. "What's wrong? When do you plan to marry her?" Zhang Yu asked seriously. Lin Qie was bewildered. What? Still trying to deny it. Chloe raised her head, with an expression of having seen through everything. "The first time I saw you two together, I felt something off about the way you looked at that girl. You clearly have feelings for her. Tell me, did you deliberately set her up to be expelled from Yaoqi so you could take advantage of the situation? Brother Qie, I understand a gentleman's pursuit, but after going this far, it would be difficult to resolve without marriage." Yan Zhong earnestly advised. "You wouldn't just be playing around, would you? Scum." Gong Yangwan coldly remarked. "Lin Qie. I didn't say I wouldn't marry her." Lin Qie glanced at Jialan in the distance, who was wiping her tears, and said quietly, "Anyway, let's put this aside for now. The important matter is urgent. You help guard the marquee here, I'll go find the Queen Mother again." "For what?" Zhang Yu asked. Have you forgotten why we came? Lin Chia pointed at the willow branches nearby. Now in the Han dynasty only the Queen Mother remains as a deity. Without her help how can we kill Kujuan? That's true, but you just angered her and now you're going back to find her. Is that appropriate? Don't worry. Lin Chia turned to look into the distance. She is the Queen Mother of the West after all. Yaoqi the bedchamber. The Queen Mother stood on the ruins, her gaze slowly sweeping over the blood-colored ground below. Apart from those putrid willow branches, numerous corpses of celestial soldiers lay on the ground. Her hands clenched tightly, and an expression of guilt appeared on her face. Just then a figure appeared behind her. "What is it?" the Queen Mother asked in a deep voice. "Your Majesty, although the chaos in Yaoqi has been resolved, the main body of that willow tree is still near Kunlun Mountain. That monster destroyed my Yaoqi. I must kill it." Fierce killing intent erupted from the Queen Mother's eyes, her voice becoming even deeper. "This is a grudge between gods. You mortals need not interfere. Your Majesty, this clone system god comes from beyond our world. Their power cannot be underestimated. With your Majesty alone, the chances of victory are extremely low." Lin Chia spoke solemnly. "Now that the heavenly court is in the outer realm, if your Majesty perishes, there will be no one left in this world who can kill that monster. Please consider the welfare of all beings under heaven and not act rashly." Hearing this, the killing intent in the Queen Mother's eyes quickly calmed. She frowned in thought for a moment, then turned to look at Lin Chia. "What do you propose? Leave the pursuit of Kujuan to us. After we severely wound it, your Majesty can then strike the killing blow. That would be the most secure strategy. You want me to hide behind you mortals? Mortals are not weaker than gods. If your Majesty doesn't believe me, would you dare to fight me?" Lin Chia's voice was perfectly calm. Hearing these words, the Queen Mother's gaze intensified. She frowned, observing Lin Chia for a long time before slowly shaking her head. "I have had enough of killing my own kind. Since you have a plan, I will follow it." The Queen Mother extended her hand, passing the Kunlun mirror to Lin Chia. "Take this mirror with you. At the critical moment, I will certainly intervene." "Thank you for your assistance, your Majesty." Lin Chia respectfully accepted the Kunlun mirror and was about to leave when the Queen Mother's voice sounded again. "Wait." Lin Chia turned back puzzled. The Queen Mother hesitated for a moment, then turned and walked into the ruins of the bedchamber, taking out a light yellow hardwood bough. "On my behalf, please give this bough to Jialan." The surging spiritual power gradually subsided, and Huotsubing slowly opened his eyes. "My lord, you're awake." Zhang Yuwu exclaimed with delight. "How do you feel?" Huotsubing stood up from the ground, lightly shook his sleeves, and the dust fell from the hem of his marquee robe. He stood there straight as an arrow, like a sturdy pine tree. "Much better." Huotsubing looked down at his palm, his eyes incredibly bright. "Where is Lin Chia?" "He went to find the Queen Mother of the West." "Oh, here he comes now." Everyone turned to look and saw Lin Chia carrying a hardwood bough, slowly walking toward them from a distance. "The Marquis is awake?" Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. "Good timing, we should get going now." "To find the Celestial Court?" "The Celestial Court is beyond our reach now, but we must kill Kujuan's main body. That thing's offspring took several days to reach the outskirts of Chang'an, which means the main body doesn't move quickly. It should still be in the Kunlun Mountains." Everyone nodded and immediately walked toward the exit of Yaoqi. "Jialan, the Queen Mother asked me to give this to you." Lin Chia took the hardwood bough from his back and handed it to Jialan. Jialan, who had just managed to stop her tears, saw the hardwood bough and her eyes immediately reddened again. She held the bough in her arms, her fingertips gently rubbing its surface. "This is the bough the Queen Mother made for me from an evergreen branch when I was newly born. It won't rot or decay for 10,000 years." Jialan said softly, "But although this bough doesn't decay, It's not very sturdy, so we didn't use it for archery later on. I didn't expect the Queen Mother would still keep it. You've taken the immortality pill, your lifespan is endless. Perhaps the Queen Mother gave you this bow that won't decay for thousands of years, hoping it could stay with you forever. Lin Chia naturally recognized this bow. When he first released Jialon from Fengdu, this bow was by her side. Unfortunately, it eventually broke during battle. Jialon held the bow like a treasure, took one last look at the desolate Yaoqi and turned to leave. Just as Lin Chia was about to leave, as if remembering something, he casually picked up a willow branch corpse and followed closely behind. In the heavy snowfall, several figures emerged from the void one after another. Where should we go next? Chloe asked. Lin Chia raised the willow branch in his hand. In his vision, a thread of cause and effect extended from the willow branch corpse, stretching in a certain direction before disappearing into nothingness. This willow branch was something left by the main body with a very close causal relationship. As long as Lin Chia held this branch, he could follow the trail to find Kujuan's main body. This way, Lin Chia pointed in a direction. Hu Xubing raised his hand, and two carriages that had been buried in the snow and wind suddenly rushed out, stopping in front of everyone. Get in, this marquee will take you in pursuit. Space. In the endless darkness and silence, a magnificent ancient celestial court moved silently among the stars. Among the constellations, a red star was getting closer and closer to them. It was a huge rust-brown sphere about half the size of Earth, but even so, the celestial court seemed as insignificant as an ant before it. This rusty star floated lifelessly in space, slowly moving toward Earth. A giant eyeball flowing with what looked like mucus was floating on the surface of the star. Vaguely, one could see strange beast shadows flashing within it, with muffled thunder sounds emanating from it, and a sense of deathly oppression surging forth. What kind of monstrosity is this? In the celestial court, the Virtue Supreme looked at this strange colossal entity before him, his brows tightly furrowed. It looks like some kind of extraterrestrial life form, but it emits a very strange aura, like a deity, yet also like an evil spirit. I've never seen anything like it before, the Primordial Supreme said solemnly. An invasion of extraterrestrial deities. Could it be related to the great calamity that this poor Taoist predicted? The Treasure Supreme's fingers moved slightly as if calculating something. This thing is getting closer and closer to the human world. We need to deal with it quickly. We have just entered the Supreme Realm, our powers are not yet stable, and this thing is extremely strange. We must be careful when we strike, the Primordial Supreme reminded. The other two Supremes nodded, and their forms shot out from the celestial court like three beams of rainbow light. Following them, numerous ancient divine shadows flew out like raindrops, descending toward that red dead star in a vast, overwhelming wave. Faint glimmers flashed across the surface of that red star, almost imperceptible to the naked eye when viewed from the ground. Two carriages swept across the vast snowy mountains, advancing through the blizzard. Blazing flames rose from Chloe's hands, barely dispelling the surrounding cold, but even so, the wildly bumping carriage made everyone's faces turn pale. Lin Chia seemed to sense something, slightly frowning as he lifted the carriage curtain and looked up at the red star. Have the Supremes made their move? Lin Chia murmured. I can't take it anymore. Yan Zhong weakly raised his hand and patted the inner wall of the carriage, hoarsely saying, Let's rest. Rest a bit before continuing. Ugh. Without another word, Chloe vomited directly onto the carriage floor. The smell immediately broke the resistance of the other struggling, suffering passengers, who began to retch one after another. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly, and he immediately began looking for a suitable landing spot. His gaze swept over the area below, finally settling on a dilapidated temple in the mountains. There's actually a temple in this place? Lin Chia said in surprise. Under Lin Chia's guidance, the two carriages began to descend toward the broken temple. As soon as the wheels touched the ground, several figures rushed out, beginning their journey of release. Lin Chia lightly jumped down from the carriage and immediately noticed several corpses arranged in the open space of the broken temple, with some willow branches mixed among them. On Kujuan's path of movement, even this place was affected by the counterfeit. Lin Chia's gaze swept over these corpses one by one and he sighed helplessly. He stepped into the broken temple to see if there were any survivors, but unfortunately, apart from the silent Buddha statue, there was no sign of life. Wasn't Buddhism not yet introduced in this era? Lin Chia looked at the clay Buddha statue in the center of the temple, raising his eyebrows in confusion. This is the border between Han and the Magadha kingdom. Some Buddhist beliefs have already begun to cross the border into Han. Yanzhong weakly entered the temple and began looking around. What are you looking for? Food. Yanzhong rubbed his empty stomach and said bitterly, after riding in those flying carriages so many times today, I've almost thrown up everything in my stomach. Since monks originally lived here, there should be some dried food stored. Yanzhong hurriedly walked toward the back courtyard of the temple. Lin Chia glanced at the Buddha statue and followed him into the yard. His peripheral vision fell on a corner of the courtyard and his gaze suddenly fixed. On a spotlessly clean stone platform in the corner, a chessboard sat silently. These monks from Magadha actually like to play chess? Yanzhong also saw the chessboard and said with surprise, then dove into the small kitchen beside the courtyard, rummaging for a long time until he finally found some dried food. Guo Xubing and the others also entered the temple one by one, looking around. Chloe curiously poked at the clay Buddha statue in the center while lighting flames, igniting the red candles offered in the temple one after another. The blizzard mixed with the howling wind made the door of the dilapidated temple creak, and several candle flames flickered in the wind, seemingly bathing the clay Buddha statue in gold. Everyone is starving after this journey. Let's eat something here before setting off. Yanzhong distributed the dried food to everyone. Otherwise, if we really encounter that monster's true form, we'll be too hungry to fight. Lin Chia, now possessing a primordial spirit body, no longer needed to eat, so he handed his portion to Jialon. You eat it. Jialon was gnawing on her own dried food when she saw Lin Chia offering her another piece. She paused, then tentatively asked, "Aren't you going to eat?" "I'm not hungry." Jialon skeptically accepted the dried food. "Just to be clear, treating me to a meal won't buy me off. You still need to find me the work you promised." Yes, don't worry, I won't let you starve," Lin Chia responded with a wry smile. After taking a few bites of the dried food, Jialon seemed to remember something. "By the way, Lin Chia." "What is it?" "By my calculations, those monsters should be coming for me again soon. What should we do? This time I've eaten the immortality pill, so it can't be destroyed even if we wanted to." Jialon's face fell as if even the dried food in her hand no longer tasted good. "Don't worry, with me here they won't be able to take you away." Lin Chia reassured her, but in his heart he was seriously pondering. The key of the gate knew that Jialon had eaten the immortality pill and would certainly not let the matter rest. Given the current situation, it would continue to send Migu to hunt down Jialon. Although she would be safe as long as he stayed by her side, this couldn't be a permanent solution. What if he concealed Jialon's causality as well? A glimmer flashed in Lin Chia's eyes as he turned to look at Jialon. In his vision, threads of causality floated out from within her body. Hearing Lin Chia's promise, Jialon was just beginning to feel reassured when she noticed him suddenly staring at her with a serious expression. She asked puzzlingly, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just keep eating." "I'm just looking." Lin Chia stared intently at those floating threads of causality, his brows slightly furrowed. Until now, Lin Chia had only successfully hidden his own causality threads. Whether he could hide someone else's causality was still unknown. Jialon had grown up in Yaopool serving only the Queen Mother, so she had very few causality threads. But the problem was that Lin Chia sensed another presence within her. A black thread of causality mixed among Jialan's own, extended outward into nothingness. What causality was that? Lin Chia traced along the thread and finally located its source. The immortality pill. Although the immortality pill was an object as long as it existed, it had its own causality threads. The causality on this pill was 100 times more complex than Jialan's, and that black thread of causality even carried a trace of the Ku system's aura. How could the immortality pill have causality with the Ku system? Lin Chia suddenly recalled hearing from the great Xia god that when the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord refined the immortal pill years ago, it was subjected to heavenly tribulation. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky, splitting the immortal pill in two. Heavenly tribulation? Lin Chia clearly remembered that after obtaining causeless cause and predetermined effect, he also attracted that terrifying lightning strike. But that wasn't any heavenly tribulation, but rather the key of the gate attacking from afar, trying to kill him. Was it possible that what destroyed the immortal pill back then wasn't heavenly tribulation at all, but the key of the gate, reaching across the river of time trying to erase this pill? The heavenly lord of that time probably didn't know about the key of the gate's existence and mistook that lightning strike for heavenly tribulation? This would explain everything. The key of the gate had realized from the beginning that the immortal pill posed a major danger and wanted to destroy it directly, but due to the heavenly lord's interference, it only split it in half. The key of the gate didn't give up, immediately dispatching Migu to hunt down both halves of the pill, wanting to completely erase their existence. No wonder the immortality pill had the causality of the key of the gate. It was left by that lightning strike. Seeing that Lin Chia was still staring at her intently, Jialan felt a bit embarrassed. Just as she was about to say something, Lin Chia suddenly reached out his hand toward her hair. "What are you doing?" Jialan came to her senses, 2 streaks of blush quickly crossing her cheeks. "Don't move." Lin Chia's fingertips stopped just before Jialan's hair, gently manipulating something. One by one, invisible causality threads were extracted, connected end to end in his palm, gradually gathering into a circular shape. Jialan's causality became faintly visible. But Lin Chia's frown deepened. After a moment he lowered his hand and sighed helplessly. He could hide Jialan's causality, but not the causality thread of the immortality pill. Perhaps because the connection between the immortality pill and the Ku system was too tight, or perhaps because his mastery of causeless cause and predetermined effect was still insufficient. But regardless, this was bad news. Even if he could hide Jialan's causality, as long as the immortality pill remained, the key of the gate could still see her. Jialan brushed aside her disheveled hair at the temples, her face completely red. She couldn't understand what Lin Chia was doing at all, but for some reason her heart was inexplicably racing. "What's wrong with your face?" Lin Chia asked. "No, nothing." Jialan took a fierce bite of her dried food, her mood gradually calming down. Lin Chia didn't ask further because his thoughts were now completely focused on something else. He got up from the ground, casually picked up a pebble from the corner of the temple, and began to examine it carefully in his palm. "What are you doing?" Chloe asked curiously, seeing Lin Chia's actions. "Hiding causality." Lin Chia narrowed his eyes. As his fingertips moved slightly, the causality threads of the stone intertwined, condensing into a ring, gradually concealing themselves in nothingness. His eyes grew increasingly bright. "I know now." Lin Chia tossed the stone aside and, as if remembering something, suddenly turned to look at the chessboard in the courtyard and quickly walked toward it. Whoosh! He picked up a chess container and poured the black pieces all over the board. This immediately drew the attention of everyone else. "What do you know?" Chloe became even more confused. Lin Chia looked down at the chessboard filled with black pieces, his eyes as brilliant as stars. "The way to turn the tables. Reversal method?" Hearing these words, Everyone's faces were blank. The Queen Mother of the West is right. There are no inevitable consequences in this world. The chaos in Chang'an, Jialan swallowing the pill, the bloodbath at Yaoqi. All of this is a cycle. It's precisely because I made Jialan eat the immortality pill that Jialan would appear in later generations. It's precisely because I met Jialan in the future that I came back here and made Jialan eat the immortality pill. The chaos in Chang'an is like this, and so is Yaoqi. All of this is a paradox of cause and effect. A circle where the head connects to the tail, and the one who personally created these causal paradoxes is me from some point in the future. Only by connecting cause and effect into a circle can it be completely hidden, can it escape the observation of the key to the gate. Jialan swallowing the pill wasn't predestined, nor was the establishment of the evil suppression department. They seem unchangeable because at some point in time, I forcibly twisted these events into a circle with the power of cause and effect, beginning with me and ending with me, as if I had hidden my own causality, hiding this segment of history. As long as they become paradoxical circles, no matter how the key to the gate changes history, it won't affect these events. This is the predetermined outcome I've planted. After understanding all this, the chaotic and complex causality spanning 2,000 years suddenly became clear in Lin Chia's eyes. Above this chaotic causality, there was an invisible hand controlling everything, and this hand belonged to Lin Chia himself at some point in the future, wielding causeless cause and predetermined outcome. And all he did was aimed at that eye, suspended above the river of time, one of the three Cthulhu pillar gods, the key to the gate. His future self was using causality to counter omniscience. I don't understand. Yan Zhong looked bewilderedly at Hu Xubing. Marquis, do you understand? Hu Xubing shook his head. No. In the war against Cthulhu, humanity's chance of victory is 0. This is the conclusion, the key to the gate, drew from observing all of human history, but this conclusion is limited to the history he observed, not the true history. Lin Chia turned his head to look at Chloe beside him. To defeat omniscience, we must hide as much favorable history as possible. Only I can do this. So, the future Chloe used, the first covenant, to send me back to this era, to begin this chess game spanning 2,000 years of human history. From the moment I returned to this era and awakened causeless cause and predetermined outcome, humanity's chance of victory was no longer 0. Lin Chia took a white piece from the chess basket beside him and replaced a black piece in the corner of the board. At this moment, among the board full of black pieces, a hopeful white piece finally appeared. Although it seemed insignificant compared to the entire game, it contained infinite possibilities. This first move to turn the tide is your first covenant, reversing cause and effect, finding life in death. Chloe looked at Lin Chia in confusion. Although she didn't understand his meaning, it seemed like she had done something incredibly impressive that changed the fate of humanity. So, you came back to this era just to play chess with someone? Yan Zhong seemed to understand a little and walked to Lin Chia's side. Who's on the other side of the board? Lin Chia's gaze fell on the void across the stone platform. In a trance, he saw a door, a sheep, and a grinning black man. He took a deep breath and slowly said, "The three pillar gods." Looking at the black chessboard with only one white piece, Yan Zhong couldn't help but say, "Looking at it this way, the chances still seem very slim. You've made your first move, what's next? To turn the tide, one chess piece is not enough. I need more pieces." Lin Chia reached into the chess basket, grabbed forcefully, and a handful of white pieces fell into his palm. Threads of causality extended from within him, connecting with these white pieces. Causeless cause and predetermined outcome floated behind Lin Chia, weaving one causal circle after another among these chess pieces. These chess pieces need to meet 3 conditions. First, they exist in the future 2,000 years later. Second, they have the potential to positively engage in battle with the Cthulhu mythos. Third, there must be causality between them and my past self. Only in this way can my future self remotely conceal their causal threads, making them completely disappear from the key to the gate's observation. This way they will, like me, transcend the control of the Cthulhu mythos and make their critical move at a crucial moment. Remotely conceal their causal threads? Is that possible? As long as they have causal connections with me and through some medium I can do it. What medium? The medium is right here, isn't it? Lin Chia opened his palm and a handful of white chess pieces clattered onto the table. Causality as threads, white pieces as messages. Sounds interesting. Yen Zhong sighed helplessly. Too bad I won't see the scene 2,000 years later. Why wouldn't you see it? Lin Chia's lips curled into a smile as he pointed at Hu Jia nearby. Have you forgotten that we have mind travel? You mean spiritual immortality? The people in this temple will not only see it but participate in it. Would you be at ease leaving humanity's future solely to posterity? Lin Chia took a few pieces from the table and spread them in his palm. His gaze swept across the dilapidated temple howling with snow and wind. Wu Tsubing, Zhan Yuwu, Yen Zhong, Gong Yangwan, Wu Quan, Chloe, Hu Jia, Jialan. They were the top talents of this era and shouldn't be submerged in the river of time. They were, in Lin Chia's mind, the original team against the Cthulhu mythos. Hearing these words, everyone's eyes showed movement. The unwillingness and fighting spirit engraved in their bones surged forth. When they thought about possibly participating in this chess game concerning humanity's fate spanning 2,000 years of history, their hearts grew hot. Wu Tsubing was the first to stand up. His black and gold marquee robe fluttered in the wind seeping through the door cracks. He calmly walked to Lin Chia and took a white piece from his hand. Whether past or future generations, all are children of Yen and Huang. For the common people of this world, this marquis is willing to fight. Count me in. Zhan Yuwu followed closely behind Wu Tsubing, taking a chess piece from Lin Chia's hand, grinning. Wherever the marquis goes, I'll go. Tisk, you're too quick. Yen Zhong was right behind Lin Chia, but couldn't grab one before Zhan Yuwu, and glared at him while also taking a white chess piece. What, trying to show you're more loyal to the marquis than me? I'm doing this for the common people. While Yen Zhong and Zhan Yuwu were arguing, Wu Quan silently stepped forward and took a chess piece. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, Brother Chia, will Brother Qingzhu also receive such a chess piece in the future? Of course, he is Xin Qingzhu after all. Lin Chia smiled. Wu Quan nodded, silently gripping the chess piece in his hand. I will protect him well. This first move was made by me, so it seems I can't escape this no matter what. Chloe shrugged helplessly. Give me one too. Hu Jia walked up to Lin Chia, took a white piece with both hands and solemnly said, Master Lin, Hu Jia will not fail this mission. Seeing everyone taking chess pieces, Jialan blinked, also stood up and reached for the last white piece in Lin Chia's palm. Before her fingertips could touch Lin Chia, his hand withdrew. Jialan was stunned, then glared at Lin Chia with her hands on her hips and asked, Lin Chia, what do you mean? Am I not worthy of fighting for the people? Don't rush, Lin Chia quickly consoled her. The immortality pill inside you can't be hidden with just this. Better to save it for someone who needs it more. As he finished speaking, Lin Chia's gaze fell on Gong Yangwan in the corner. Noticing Lin Chia looking at her, Gong Yangwan frowned. Why should I join you to fight for humanity? Even without the Heart Wanderer, I can still achieve immortality. Don't you want your brother to be reborn? Hearing these words, Gong Yangwan's pupils suddenly contracted. She stared at Lin Chia intently, her breathing becoming heavy. What do you mean? I mean, although you swallowed Gong Yangzhuo whole, his consciousness still remains in your mind, doesn't it? As long as he hasn't completely died, how do you know there's no hope for revival in the future? Lin Chia pointed at Hu Jia. Not to mention Hu Jia's Heart Wander specifically targets the mental world. If he helps, perhaps he can separate your brother's consciousness from your body? This way, if we find a way to guide his consciousness into a new body, rebirth might be possible. Gong Yangwan's body began to tremble. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak, so she simply rushed to Lin Chia and snatched the last white chess piece. Fine, I'll trust you this once. Gong Yangwan's lips tightened, her eyes reddening slightly. If you can save my brother, I'll do anything. Wu Tubing's gaze fell on Gong Yangwan, seeming somewhat confused. With this, our team has initially formed. Lin Chia's gaze swept across everyone as he took a deep breath. Next, there's a crucial issue. What? For this chess game, I'm not qualified enough. Everyone was stunned. What I mean is, our opponent is an extraterrestrial supreme deity with omniscient perspective. They can observe the entire river of history, backed by the gate of truth, possessing nearly infinite computational power and logical deduction abilities. Even if I can alter causality and hide myself, these alone won't be enough to defeat them. I'm just a flesh and blood being, unable to precisely deduce all causal paths extending over 2,000 years. Such a burden is impossible for a human brain to bear. I need a brain that can also control causality and precisely place each chess piece where it needs to be. A supercomputer that can perfectly conceal all causal traces and match the computational power of the key to the gate. Super, what chicken? Jialan licked her lips. Indeed, you yourself cannot be tainted by causality, yet must control this chess game spanning 2,000 years of history. This is simply impossible. Yan Zhong was the only one who could keep up with Lin Chia's thoughts. Then what do we do? Where can we find such a clever person? Zhang Yu asked in confusion. We don't need to look. Lin Chia slowly raised both hands. In his vision, two orbs of light with dense threads extending from them appeared between his palms. Only rules can counter rules. Causality has the ability to self-correct, and they are my best substitutes. Lin Chia turned to Hu Jia. Hu Jia, you said you could cut off one of my abilities, right? Yes. Lin Chia took a deep breath and extended his right hand, which carried predetermined effect, to Hu Jia. Help me cut it off. Master Lin, are you sure about this? Cause and effect, these twins, I can't bear them both now. Since I must temporarily part with one, now is the best time. Cause and effect are inherently connected. Even if you cut off predetermined effect, I can still establish a connection with it using causeless cause. This way, not only will it solve the problem of my mental burden, but will also gain a superbrain with independent action that can correct causality and deduce the future for us. This is the best choice. I'll wield causeless cause to create chess pieces, while another me born from predetermined effect will be the player relying on immense computational power and an absolutely calm mind. I and he will each be responsible for half the chess game. Only this way do we have a chance of winning. Seeing Lin Chia's determination, Hu Jia stopped trying to dissuade him. He immediately took out the stone flute from his waist and began to play softly. Lin Chia relaxed his mind, allowing Hu Jia to enter his mental world. The next moment, a massive sword shadow pierced the sky, directly splitting the sun on the right. Intense pain surged through Lin Chia's mind. He bent over in agony as the forced separation of the forbidden domain nearly suffocated him. Meanwhile, the orb of light in his right hand gradually escaped his control. At this moment, threads of causality extended from causeless cause in Lin Chia's left hand, tethering predetermined effect in place like a balloon covered in yarn. Lin Chia looked around, enduring the pain. He needed to find a new vessel for predetermined effect. Soon he began walking straight toward the center of the ruined temple. With a wave of his hand, predetermined effect crashed into the mud Buddha statue and disappeared. Did it work? Wu Tubing asked. It's initially successful. Predetermined effect has left my body and needs time to develop self-awareness. Then, it will become a precise brain connected to my thoughts but without emotional fluctuations. When I ascend to godhood, I can reabsorb it. Hearing this, Everyone finally sighed in relief. Both cause and effect are so powerful, even my emperor's dominion falls far short, Hu Tubing sighed deeply. Lin Chia, since he has become an entity closely connected to you and the player behind us, won't you give him a name? A name. Lin Chia struggled to stand straight, his gaze falling on the mud Buddha statue as he murmured. Predetermined effect means destiny. Let's call him Destiny Buddha. Destiny Ha. Hu Tubing nodded. How long will it take for him to appear? For life with thinking ability to evolve from causality, it will take at least hundreds of years. Before then we can only wait. The white pieces in your hands can help you hide from causality, but I won't activate them for you now because you all have your own historical missions and need to intersect with people and create various causalities. If too many causalities are produced during the hiding period, it might break the concealment and be discovered by the key to the door. So, I will wait until a certain time 2000 years later when you no longer create too many causalities with the world, to uniformly activate your white pieces and completely conceal you. Are you saying that for now we should just continue doing what we've been doing? Yanzhong pondered. That's right, and this period might last 2000 years, Lin Chia slowly said. Everything that happened in this dilapidated temple is just a promise that needs to be fulfilled at some point more than 2000 years later. Causality as the thread, white chess pieces as the token. This is our sacred covenant. Everyone exchanged glances and nodded simultaneously. Future matters can be discussed in the future. Now we still have one thing to complete. Lin Chia looked at the causality thread floating from the willow branch, narrowing his eyes. Once we're rested, let's set off. Everyone had finished their dry rations, and the dizziness from riding the flying car had disappeared. They pushed open the creaking temple door in the snowstorm and walked toward the two carriages. Lin Chia, Hu Tubing called out to Lin Chia. What is it, Marquis? Who is Gong Yongzhua? Hu Tubing asked curiously, watching Gong Yongwan's departing figure. When Gong Yongwan killed Chen Bapi, Hu Tubing was resting in the carriage and didn't know about her past. Lin Chia briefly described it to him, after which he fell silent. I knew she killed everyone in a stronghold, but I didn't know there was such a story behind it, Hu Tubing sighed deeply. Now Gong Yongwan has developed an interest in the demon suppression department. If we can rescue Gong Yongzhua, we can bind her completely to us. However, finding a suitable physical body for Gong Yongzhua remains a difficult problem. Lin Chia shook his head and walked straight toward one of the carriages. Hu Tubing stood in the dilapidated temple, his eyes fixed on Gong Yongwan as she boarded the carriage, lost in thought. Space. In the silent darkness, brilliant flashes of fire erupted in deep space. Under the flying divine spells and godly lights, terrifying cracks spread frantically across the surface of that rust-colored celestial body. Dense, bizarre monsters leaped from the red ground, engaging in battle with the gods pouring out from the heavenly court, like heaven and earth shattering. These monsters seemed to be creatures born from this red celestial body. Though not individually strong, they were extremely numerous. Their disproportionately large mouths could easily devour objects 100 times their size. Even divine artifacts would shatter under their frenzied gnawing. Fortunately, the gods of the heavenly court were also numerous and possessed many divine artifacts. As the two sides fought, the gods eventually gained the upper hand. Meanwhile, that flowing giant eye on the celestial body locked firmly onto the three heavenly venerable before it. It can't hold on much longer, the primordial heavenly venerable said calmly, standing on countless golden lotuses. Cut it down with the origin. The heavenly venerable raised his hand slightly, and the distant heavenly court, shrouded in spiritual energy, trembled slightly. A golden thread floated into his palm, wrapping around his sword fingers, and a terrifying pressure instantly spread throughout the entire space. Holding the origin of the heavenly court, the primordial heavenly venerable made a sweeping gesture toward the huge red celestial body before him. The invisible power of origin instantly cut across the ground, and a smooth fracture began to appear at the center of the celestial body. Viscous black magma gushed out frantically from the fracture, and a foul stench spread through deep space. The primordial heavenly venerable, holding the origin of the heavenly court, frowned slightly. Just as he was about to swing his sword a second time, the two halves of the celestial body suddenly emitted a dazzling light. The next moment, before the primordial heavenly venerable could swing his sword, the two halves automatically disintegrated. Under the terrifying propulsive force of the explosion, countless rust-colored fragments swarmed toward a certain direction in deep space. The spiritual treasure heavenly venerable frowned, about to say something, when he saw the direction these celestial fragments were heading. His pupils suddenly contracted. Not good. It's going to destroy Earth directly. The red celestial body was too massive, about half the size of Earth. Even after disintegration, the fragments were still the size of small asteroids. Any single fragment hitting Earth could at best destroy a city or even a country, and at worst cause biological extinction. The three heavenly venerables immediately moved, rapidly pursuing the fragment cluster shooting through space. Divine light swept through the darkness, quickly annihilating one fragment after another. But even so, the few fastest fragments had already reached Earth's atmosphere. "This is bad," the spiritual treasure heavenly venerable muttered. Two carriages flew through the snow-covered mountains. Lin Chia sat in the carriage, his gaze following the causality thread toward the distance. It should be nearby. Is that a patch of smoke over there? Could that be it? Chloe's eyes were very sharp, and she immediately spotted the constantly color-changing smoke at the end of the mountain range. Is that it? Yes, that's it. Lin Chia's eyes flashed with a gleam of light. After giving Hua Tsubing directions, the two carriages immediately accelerated, heading straight for the colorful smoke. As they got closer, Lin Chia could finally see the full view of the smoke. The dizzying, colorful smoke had enveloped almost all the nearby peaks, covering an area several times larger than what they had seen outside Chang'an. It seemed that after leaving Yaoqi, it had been continuously moving eastward, getting further away from this mountain range. Finally found it, Hua Tsubing narrowed his eyes. This before them was Kuzhuan's true form. If they killed it, all first and second generation offspring scattered throughout the Han dynasty would die simultaneously. Just as the two carriages were about to charge into the smoke, the sky above suddenly began to flash. Lin Chia was startled and immediately looked up. He saw that the red celestial body in the sky had darkened and shattered, with streaks like meteors cutting through deep space, growing larger in their vision. What's happening? Lin Chia's expression immediately became grave. The others also saw this scene. The carriages immediately stopped at the edge of the smoke. At the same time, the Kunlun mirror in Lin Chia's arms began to vibrate violently. He took out the Kunlun mirror, and from its smooth surface, a divine shadow flew out, transforming into the figure of the Queen Mother of the West wearing a gold-trimmed purple robe. She looked up at the rapidly approaching red fragments, her expression extremely grim. "That star, automatically disintegrated?" the Queen Mother of the West murmured. Lin Chia seemed to realize something, his brows tightly furrowed. The harbinger of the Ku system deities. The omen of destruction. Damn it, from the beginning, it never intended to kill all the gods on Earth by itself. It deliberately lured the gods into space, then took the opportunity to disintegrate and destroy Earth's living beings. Its goal is to destroy Earth's living beings on a large scale, thereby reducing the generation of faith power. During the first invasion of the Ku system gods, they were repelled by the ancestral god who possessed vast amounts of faith. So for this second invasion, they directly sent the Death Star as a harbinger, intending to sacrifice it to destroy Earth's living beings, just like the mist that slaughtered living beings across the globe during the third invasion. The difference is that historically the Death Star of the second invasion failed, but the mist of the third invasion succeeded. We must stop those fragments. Lin Chia immediately spoke. Then what about Kusuan's main body? Are we ignoring it? Chloe asked. The casualties Kusuan can cause now are limited, but those fragments falling from the sky are enough to destroy human civilization. Lin Chia didn't hesitate at all. With this willow branch I can find it any time. Let's deal with the more important matter first. The Queen Mother of the West's view was essentially the same as Lin Chia's. Her gaze fixed firmly on those dense fragments, she said gravely. There are too many. Just within the Great Han territory alone there are 14 pieces, with the farthest at the eastern border. Let's split up. Lin Chia's eyes flashed with light. Earth should have other deities now besides us, but they'll likely be guarding their own territories. The ones falling in the Great Han Dynasty's territory can only be handled by us. There are 5 fragments in the easternmost region, about 6 in the central area and 3 nearby, but the Great Han territory is too vast. Can we make it in time? Everyone's expressions immediately turned grim. Even the Queen Mother of the West would need the time of burning an incense stick to cross from the westernmost to the easternmost part of the Great Han, let alone Lin Chia, Hu Xubing and Chloe, who didn't have the cloud somersault. But if they waited that long, those fragments would have already crashed. We can make it. Chloe spoke resolutely, her mental power rapidly spreading as a white light flowed around her. Make a covenant. With me, my ability will consume faith to send you to where you need to go. We will definitely make it. Lin Chia's eyes brightened. Of course, they still had 001 here, a top-tier god ruin approaching omnipotence. I will take the eastern side, said the Queen Mother of the West. There are 6 fragments in the central area, the most numerous. Since Chloe and I are already here, we'll go together, Lin Chia said, sitting in the carriage. I will stay here to deal with those 3, said Hu Xubing. Good. The white light around Chloe grew brighter, and a sacred, inviolable aura emanated from her body. She swept her gaze over everyone and slowly said, with heaven and earth as witness, faith as medium, in 10 breaths, we shall gaze at each other from the east, center and west of the Great Han Dynasty. As her words fell, a shimmering white mark condensed from Chloe's fingertips. The next moment, 2 spatial vortices opened simultaneously, swallowing the Queen Mother of the West and Lin Chia's carriage. With their disappearance, only a lonely carriage remained in the snow. My lord, what should we do? Zhang Yuwu anxiously asked, looking up at the 3 star fragments rapidly approaching. Hu Xubing slowly walked out of the carriage, his black and gold official robe fluttering in the wind. He raised both hands, and several mountains covered in snow around them began to violently shake. Boom! With a thunderous sound, the entire mountain range seemed to be uprooted by an invisible hand, rising into the air alongside Hu Xubing. Wait here for my return. As Hu Xubing's words fell, the entire mountain range surrounded him, soaring skyward. The millennia-old snow piled on the peaks cascaded down, instantly obscuring the vision of those below. Gong Yangwan and the others were simultaneously engulfed in the swirling snow. By the time they struggled out of the snow, his figure had become a black dot, disappearing into the sky. A bolt of lightning flashed and brilliant flames erupted from the 3 star fragments. It took a full 10 seconds before the deafening roar reached everyone's ears. Central Great Han Dynasty. A carriage flew out of a spatial vortex. Lin Chia lifted the curtain, his gaze sweeping over the central lands below, and couldn't help but marvel. Once a covenant is formed, it will be fulfilled no matter what. Truly a convenient ability. Chloe turned her head, looking toward both west and east, a smile curling her lips. Indeed, though replenishing the consumed faith will be troublesome. Lin Chia looked at the 6 fragments blotting out the sky above. 3 each? No problem. You'll have to carry me up on the wind. I can't fly. Are you serious? Causality hasn't granted me the power of flight. I can't exactly jump from here to the ionosphere, can I? What sphere? Just a very high place. Fine, fine, let's go. Chloe raised her hand and two whirlwinds carried her and Lin Chia's bodies, transforming into two shooting stars that vanished into the sky above. Wu Chuan controlled the carriage as it hovered in the air, watching the two departing figures and sighed helplessly. Indeed, without reaching the human ceiling, I still can't be of much help. As Lin Chia ascended, the sky gradually turned black, and the surrounding air grew increasingly thin. At this height he could clearly see the curvature of Earth's surface, the distant oceans and the outlines of lands even further away. But Lin Chia had no mind to appreciate the scenery now. Looking at the 6 rust-colored star fragments rapidly approaching, his brows furrowed tightly. Indeed, the Ku system aura is so strong. Though not comparable to the 3 pillar gods, it's not far off. Just as he was about to strike and shatter these star fragments, a pure white light like a sword erupted from another continent at the distant horizon, instantly destroying several fragments about to fall on that land. The terrifying divine power rippled through the air, and even Lin Chia and Chloe in the central Great Han could clearly feel it. It's the Holy Lord. Chloe's eyes lit up with joy as she sensed this divine power. Urand had also taken action? Besides this pure white pillar of light, divine lights also erupted from several other distant continents. Though not many, they were the ancient deities of various mythologies hidden on Earth in this era. Kunlun Mountain Range, eastern side. So powerful. Looking at the exploding star fragments, Zhang Yuwu couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The Marquis can battle even with gods, of course he's powerful. Yan Zhong patted the snow off his body. By my count, the Marquis has saved the people of the world countless times. The debt we owe him, when will we ever be able to repay it? Fortunately, 7 nights brought the Marquis peaches of immortality, so the Marquis can have a few more years to enjoy some peace. Maybe he could even get married and have a child? Would it be difficult for the Marquis to find a wife? If the Marquis just said the word, countless women would throw themselves at him. He simply doesn't want to. Yan Zhong let out a long sigh. The Marquis keeps himself too tightly wound. After we return to Chang'an, we should try to persuade him again. At the very least, he should leave behind an heir for the Hua family, right? While the two were talking, Gong Yangwan silently climbed a nearby peak, her brows tightly furrowed. What are you looking at? Zhang Yuwu asked curiously. Are we about to leave the Kunlun Mountains here? We've been in the flying vehicle for so long, we should be at the edge of the Kunlun Mountains by now. Further east should be near Western City. Seeing Gong Yangwan's strange expression, Yan Zhong also climbed the mountain peak and scanned the surroundings. He saw a swirling mass of colorful mist that had already left the mountain range and was steadily advancing eastward. Yan Zhong's heart sank. This was bad. Earlier, when they were looking for Kujuan's true form, they were already at the edge of the Kunlun Mountains. Before they could act, the Death Star had exploded, immediately drawing away their attention. They had almost forgotten there was still a major problem here. Is its target Western City? Zhang Yuwu also saw this and turned pale with shock. Although Western City is on the western frontier of the Great Han, it's an important trading hub with a significant population. This thing is truly vicious. What should we do? Everyone capable of confronting that thing has gone to deal with the star fragments. They won't be back anytime soon. Zhang Yuwu spoke anxiously. Yan Zhong looked at the outline of the city in the east, his expression extremely grim. After struggling with the decision for a long time, he finally gritted his teeth. Let's go. Let's see if we can hold it back. All right. Zhang Yuwu didn't hesitate for a moment. Are you both insane? That's the monster that destroyed Yaopu and the gods. The two of you together couldn't defeat even one hand of a god, yet you're going to get involved in this. Gong Yangwan said coldly. Then what should we do? Just stand here and watch. Yan Zhong glared at Gong Yangwan. Didn't the Marquis establish the Demon Suppression Bureau to protect these civilians? We may not be as strong as the Marquis, but having followed him for so long, If we don't even have this much resolve, we've truly wasted our time. No need to say more to her. She's just a prisoner rescued by the Marquis. She wouldn't understand. Zhang Yuwu drew the curved blade from his waist and headed straight toward the direction of the moving mist. Yan Zhong was about to follow, but after a moment's hesitation he turned back to Gong Yongwan. Gong Yongwan, we don't expect you to help us stop that monster, but if you have any conscience left, try to evacuate the civilians from the city. At least then the Marquis's constant efforts to keep you by his side and dispel the resentment in your heart won't have been in vain. With those words, Yan Zhong transformed into a beam of rainbow light and flew away, quickly disappearing into the snow and wind. Gong Yongwan stood frozen in place. He's been keeping me by his side, to dispel my resentment? Since falling into Hua Tsubing's hands he had indeed taken her everywhere. Chang'an, the Imperial Palace, the establishment of the Demon Suppression Bureau, and even brought her thousands of miles to the Kunlun Mountains. She had thought it was because Hua Tsubing didn't trust her, but thinking carefully, since Hua Tsubing had already planted the return heart parasite in her body, why would he go to such lengths? When the Demon Suppression Bureau was first established, wouldn't it have been better to execute her to establish the Bureau's reputation? Undeniably, traveling with Hua Tsubing had indeed calmed Gong Yongwan's inner turmoil. At least she no longer constantly mocked and ridiculed him as she did when she first fell into his hands. Now she mostly remained silent. Gong Yongwan watched the two departing figures, her brows tightly knit. After a moment she still stepped toward Western City. Evacuating civilians was something she could help with, considering it as saving more lives. But she didn't consider herself noble enough to sacrifice herself for others by entering the mist to die. Her life wasn't just her own, it also belonged to Gong Yongzhua. She had no right to decide her own life and death alone. Gong Yongwan's figure flashed, her speed increasing tenfold, like an arrow shooting across the snow, easily overtaking the slowly moving colorful mist to arrive at the gates of Western City. Her gaze swept over the soldiers guarding the city gates and the civilians slowly queuing to enter the city, and she spoke gravely. 15 miles outside the city, a giant beast is approaching. If you don't want to die, leave this place immediately. Her voice immediately drew everyone's attention. People looked at her in confusion, whispering among themselves, but no one turned to leave. Seeing no one moving, Gong Yongwan's brows immediately furrowed. Who are you? Spreading such nonsense. A soldier walked up to Gong Yongwan and asked sternly, "This is Western City. We have hundreds of soldiers guarding in shifts. What beast could break through our walls and enter the city? This is no ordinary beast. It's an evil god." Evil god. The soldier snorted derisively. I think you should queue up to enter the city and find a good doctor to check your head. Gong Yongwan's gaze immediately turned cold. I'm trying to persuade you to flee for your lives and you won't listen. Determined to die, are you? Gong Yongwan gave a cold laugh. Her face flickered, instantly transforming into the fierce, ferocious face of a man. She raised her right hand and a sharp bird-like cry rang out. Boom! The towering city wall was instantly shattered to pieces. More than a dozen soldiers standing on the wall fell with cries of alarm as dust billowed into the air. Everyone immediately stared in terror at the male-faced Gong Yongwan, their eyes filled with disbelief. Gong Yongwan waved her hand again, and a terrifying crack split the ground in two, missing the people by a hair's breadth. This frightened them even more and they fled frantically into the city. Monster! A monster! A murderous demon is here. Run! Ayah! In just a moment the area outside the city was completely empty, but Gong Yongwan showed no sign of stopping. Her goal was to evacuate the entire city. Since kind persuasion couldn't make these foolish people listen, she would become the demon that scared everyone away. Bang! Several houses were crushed into fragments by Gong Yongwan, flames ignited one after another, and panic began to spread frantically throughout the Western City. Masses of terrified citizens fled in one direction, which was the escape route Gong Yongwan had chosen for them. Of course, among them were many soldiers charging toward her, yet none could get close to her body. Although Gong Yongwan was now only a cline, all the people in this city combined could not possibly be her match. The raging flames cast a crimson glow on Gong Yongwan's face. She wore a cyan-colored robe, walking calmly across the ruins. The soldiers around her, intimidated by her aura, continuously retreated. In their eyes she appeared to be a demon straight from hell. Suddenly her footsteps paused slightly and she began to mutter to herself. I know, but this is the best way. So what? I don't care about others' opinions at all. If the entire world wants to hunt me down, let them come. However many come, I'll kill them all. Why should I explain to them? I've already explained, Azu. Do you see them listening? Sometimes fear is the best management method. This is something I learned at Qinglong Fortress. Go back to help Zhang Yuwu and the others? Oh, it's too dangerous. I can't risk taking you with me. Stop it. I know you admire Hua Tubing the most. But now is not the time for you to show off. I promise to stand with you at the top of the world, never to be bullied by anyone again. There's no need to risk our lives for so-called righteousness. It doesn't matter if I die, but you can't. Watching Gong Yongwan talking to herself, confusion appeared in the eyes of the soldiers. Just as they were about to take advantage and attack together, their weapons were easily shattered, and they were thrown onto carriages like chickens. With the crack of a whip, the carriages carried them rapidly out of the city. After finishing all this, Gong Yongwan turned her head and saw that the city wall near the Kunlun Mountains was already shrouded in phantasmal, colorful mist. Although Zhang Yuwu and Yan Zhong had successfully bought time, they had barely managed to let the citizens of the western city escape. A massive shadow of a willow tree moved slowly in the mist, with sky-covering willow branches dancing wildly like serpents from the clouds, presenting an apocalyptic scene. Ah! Just then a scream came from a nearby street. Gong Yongwan looked toward the sound and saw a ragged boy who looked like a beggar tripped by collapsed ruins. One of his legs was already twisted out of shape, large beads of sweat falling from his forehead, his young face contorted in pain. Gong Yongwan frowned, instantly flashed to his side and lifted the broken wall off him. Why haven't you escaped yet? Gong Yongwan said coldly. I thought hiding in the stone block would help me survive. The beggar boy recognized the woman before him as that terrifying demon. Instantly he forgot his pain and spoke with a trembling voice. Fool! Gong Yongwan scolded, but seeing that dirty face, which momentarily overlapped with the memory of Gong Yongzhu's face, her heart softened. She reached out to lift the boy from the ruins. Just then, a willow branch extended rapidly from the mist, grabbing the boy's ankle like lightning, and with tremendous force pulled him out of Gong Yongwan's arms. This change happened too quickly, and with Kuzhuan's immense strength, Gong Yongwan had no way to resist. By the time she came to her senses, the boy in her arms had been swallowed into the phantasmal mist and disappeared. Gong Yongwan stood frozen, that face somewhat resembling her brother's still lingering in her vision. A sharp screech came from behind the mist where the willow tree's main body was, as if mocking, as if threatening. The countless willow branches danced wildly toward Gong Yongwan, and the terrifying pressure of the K-system deity suddenly descended. Gong Yongwan stared fixedly at the giant shadow in the mist, her fists clenched tightly. Damn it! She roared in anger, her appearance instantly changing. Sharp bird cries emanated from her palms, instantly cutting several willow branches, as she flew forward like lightning. But with her speed and strength, while she might have had a fighting chance against the first-generation offspring outside Chang'an back then, she had no room for resistance before the true body of a K-system deity. In just a moment, countless willow branches surrounded Gong Yongwan, blocking all escape routes. If she hadn't reached out to save that beggar boy, Perhaps she could have escaped with her life. But in the end she was drawn into this battle. But at this moment, there was no regret in her heart, only endless anger. She formed her hand into a sword, bird cries rising all around as she frantically slashed at the surrounding willow branches. Her eyes were completely red as if she wasn't cutting at Kujuan, but at the unfair fate and tragic past. However, her offensive couldn't last long. Her hands were tightly bound by willow branches, and she was suspended in the air, being delivered above the giant mouth in the willow tree's crown. Looking at that mouth like an abyss, a sense of despair rose in Gong Yongwan's heart. "Azu," she murmured. Boom! In an instant, a lightning dragon roared down from the clouds. A gap broke through the layered willow branches. In a flash, Gong Yongwan saw a long spear piercing through heaven and earth, and then suddenly felt lighter as a hand steadily caught her in midair. She looked up in astonishment and saw Hu Xubing in black and gold marquee robes, calmly gazing at the willow monster before him. Noticing Gong Yongwan's gaze, Hu Xubing lowered his head slightly. On that usually serious face, a rare smile appeared. "Gong Yongwan, the Marquis was indeed not wrong about you." This simple sentence shook Gong Yongwan's spirit. She floated down onto nearby ruins, only then coming back to her senses. "Why are you here?" "When the Marquis returned from the high heavens, I saw the mist covering the western city, so I came directly here." Hu Xubing's gaze returned to the mist-shrouded willow tree. "This monster needs time to absorb the life force after swallowing living beings, so Yuwu and Yenzhong are still alive." "Are you crazy? That's a deity from beyond the domain. You couldn't even defeat Zhurong, how could you win against it?" The Marquis didn't defeat Zhurong because at that time, the Marquis's life had reached its limit. A long spear mixed with fierce lightning whistled back into Hu Xubing's hand. That straight figure holding the spear seemed like a giant buried in dust, standing firm before the deity from beyond the domain. Thanks to Lin Chia's peach, the Marquis now has the capital to fight. The Marquis may not have the laws to slay a deity, but that doesn't mean the Marquis can't defeat it. Hu Xubing's aura rose steadily, the gray sky of the western regions visibly darkened, roaring thunder mixed with heavy rain poured down from the clouds, and this uninhabited western city was instantly enveloped in diffuse lightning. The giant willow tree shadow submerged in smoke seemed to sense Hu Xubing's presence, paused for a moment, then let out a sharp cry again. It sounded like mockery or perhaps a challenge. In Kujuan's view, the man before him emanating killing intent was merely a human with some power, not even a deity, no different from the two previous presumptuous insects. The wildly dancing willow branches surged toward Hu Xubing, but before touching his body, they all froze in midair. A terrifying force of domination spread from around Hu Xubing, collapsing walls, broken weapons, burning flames. All matter within several kilometers around Hu Xubing automatically floated up, instantly converging into a giant spear 1 kilometer long. Under the forging of lightning, this spear became increasingly refined and smaller, finally becoming 200 meters long, with no visible seams on its surface, completely black and emanating a terrifying aura of destruction. Hu Xubing gripped his spear tightly, stomped the ground, and his figure shot toward the smoke along with the 100-meter spear above his head. A thick bolt of lightning split the sky, tearing open a straight path through the rolling, phantasmagoric smoke. Hu Xubing's power naturally couldn't match Kujuan, a clone system deity, but under the interference of his domination power, the speed of the willow branches slowed significantly. Those branches trying to entangle and block the 100-meter spear were shattered section by section, and with one man and 2 spears, he forcibly carved a bloody path through the ocean of willow branches. Boom! Just as Hu Xubing reached the middle of the willow branch ocean, the ground beneath his feet suddenly shattered. Several massive tree roots like tentacles flew out from underground, with house-sized suction cups arranged neatly on them, bright red. One of the tentacle-like roots suddenly wrapped around the 100-meter spear, Its grotesque suction cups twisted abruptly, shattering it into pieces. The surging lightning only left slight scorch marks on its surface, unable to cause substantial damage. At the same time, two more tentacle-like roots swung toward Hua Tsubing's body. Before they even approached, the fierce wind they generated pressed him toward the ground. Boom! The earth shattered and the entire western city shook violently, creating spiderweb cracks extending for kilometers. All remaining buildings in the city collapsed simultaneously, and dust obscured all vision. Gong Yangwan stood on the ruins, barely maintaining her balance, her gaze toward the battlefield completely changed. She knew the willow monster would be strong, but never imagined it would be this terrifying. Just a wave of its tentacles destroyed an entire city. Even the Zhurong supreme god she encountered in Yaopool would struggle to directly block such an attack. And this was with Kujuan only specializing in replicating creatures. His physical combat ability was actually the lowest of all his attributes. A willow tree least suited for direct combat could casually inflict such terrible damage. How powerful must the truly combat-oriented clone system deities that Lin Chia mentioned be? Azu, don't rush. If even Hua Tsubing can't handle this monster, we'd just be going to our deaths. It's alright, he's Hua Tsubing after all. He won't die so easily. From the flying dust, a figure holding a spear shot out from the ground debris like lightning. In the flickering lightning, his black and gold marquee robe was tattered, stained with crimson blood, his entire appearance disheveled. But he was still alive. Hua Tsubing's eyes fixed on the willow tree's main body just within reach. He took a deep breath and activated Emperor's Domination, again. Imperial Crimson Blood. Hua Tsubing roared, a crimson glow instantly enveloping his entire body. His domination power began precisely controlling all his muscles, blood vessels, nerves, hormones. His body functioned like a super machine operating at 300% capacity, his eyes brilliant as stars. This was Hua Tsubing's second use of Imperial Crimson Blood. This time his aura tripled directly. Above the hanging black thunder clouds in the sky, a second layer of crimson thunder clouds and a third layer of golden thunder clouds rapidly formed. As Hua Tsubing gently raised the tip of his spear, a hurricane materialized from nothing, instantly sweeping all the city's dust up to the high heavens. Even the phantasmagoric smoke surrounding the willow tree's main body was cleared away, creating a large vacuum area. His blood-stained marquee robe fluttered violently as Hua Tsubing, spear in hand, walked through the air between lightning and torrential rain, like an invincible emperor looking down upon the mortal world. Extraterrestrial deities aren't so insurmountable after all, Hua Tsubing's deep voice sounded. This divine battle has only just begun. Crack. Deep blue, crimson and golden lightning struck down from the 3 layers of clouds, instantly engulfing Hua Tsubing's form. The next moment, that figure holding the spear still crossed the vast ocean of willow branches and numerous tentacles, arriving before the willow tree's main body in an instant. The thundering lightning spear shadow collided with the dense tentacles, and brilliant explosive light beams shot straight to the clouds. Feeling the world-destroying aura of the clash, Gong Yangwan's face showed shock. Hua Tsubing could actually fight that kind of monster on equal terms. The highest pillar in the human world, he really wasn't joking. Gong Yangwan recalled Hua Tsubing's arrogant words in the restaurant that day, feeling somewhat foolish. In this state, Hua Tsubing was simply a killing machine. Gong Yangwan even felt that if Lin Chia faced the current champion Marquis, he would have almost no chance of winning. Crack. The tricolored lightning spear penetrated a corner of the tree trunk, while a tentacle-like willow branch with a ferocious face also pierced through Hua Tsubing's chest. Hua Tsubing raised his hand and pulled in mid-air, directly tearing apart this tentacle. Crimson blood simultaneously splashed from his chest, exposing a damaged heart to the air, but under the absolute control of his domination power, the blood still maintained its original path, flowing suspended in air, automatically supplying various blood vessels from the heart chambers. It's no exaggeration to say that in this state, even if every bone in his body were crushed and every blood vessel torn, his domination power would still coalesce the bone powder into a skeleton and maintain the efficient circulation of blood throughout his body without blood vessels. This nearly immortal state made Huotsubing's attacks increasingly frenzied. Dense spear shadows penetrated the tree trunk, and under the 1,000 wounds, even this extraterrestrial clone system deity began to feel fear. The human before him was different from all the insects he had ever seen. He even began to doubt whether, if this human possessed the law, he could single-handedly kill him right here. The last time Emperor Crimson Blood was used, the counterfeit's lifespan couldn't sustain this state's consumption, and it vanished instantly. This time Huotsubing released the full power of Emperor Crimson Blood, without reservation. At the same time, this was also a symbol of his absolute control over the Domination Emperor. No longer was a human using a forbidden relic, but rather becoming the forbidden relic itself. At this moment Huotsubing was truly the Domination Emperor. Countless gaps broke open on Kujuan's trunk. Among the flying debris, that blood-colored figure leaped up from the endless willow branches and roots. His palm reached toward the sky and 3 layers of thunderclouds simultaneously struck down lightning, intertwining on the spear in his hand. Deep blue, crimson blood and brilliant gold lightning surged across the spear's surface. The overwhelming power of destruction caused cracks to extend across the weapon's body. Mortal weapons simply couldn't withstand such terrifying power and began to emit sharp wails. Huotsubing gripped this constantly trembling spear with no intention of letting go. The 3 lightning forms converged at the spear tip into a dragon silhouette. Amid the sharp wailing, the violent dragon's roar echoed between heaven and earth. The visible destructive force rippled outward from the sky. Seemingly sensing danger, the pale face on Kujuan's crown twisted grotesquely. Threads of black energy surged from within, gathering into a swirling shadow sphere. In an instant the weather changed dramatically. Sensing the energy brewing between Huotsubing and Kujuan, Gong Yongwan's expression changed. She turned and shot away from the battlefield like an afterimage. No joke, if she were caught in that scale of power, even 10 lives wouldn't be enough. Huotsubing saw the shadow sphere condensing on that pale face, but his expression remained unchanged. He slowly raised the spear in his hand, then hurled it with force. An extremely thin afterimage instantly pierced through heaven and earth. Roar! The furious dragon's cry overpowered all thunder, instantly spreading hundreds of miles. A giant dragon of tricolored lightning left an afterimage in the void, directly swallowing the enormous willow tree body. Simultaneously, a beam of shadow light overflowing with countersystem energy pierced through the dragon's silhouette, shooting straight into the clouds. A white-hot explosion silently engulfed heaven and earth, grinding the entire West City along with miles of barren land around it into ash. Moments later, thunderous roars swept through, knocking down civilians who had barely escaped the battle range. They covered their ears in pain as traces of blood seeped from their orifices. This terrifying explosion aftershock lasted a full 10 seconds. As waves of light gradually dissipated, a blood-colored figure staggered out from the dust-filled sky. Cough, 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 cough. Huotsubing held the broken spear in one hand and a bloody, pulpy thing in the other. Something like a heart or perhaps an eye. He stood weakly on the cracked ground fragments. The crimson color gradually faded from his body's surface, and blood uncontrollably seeped from various openings on his body, quickly pooling at his feet. Swirling phantasmal smoke gradually covered the ruins before him. A broken colossal willow tree shadow struggled to rise from the ground. The pustules that had been on its trunk had all burst, and the entire crown section seemed to have been torn apart and disappeared. But even so, the silhouette in the smoke was gradually recovering. A sharp, rage-filled screech echoed beneath the sky, and the broken willow branches once again extended in all directions. Huatsubing looked at the willow tree heart he had cut down in his hand, then raised his head toward the gradually recovering willow tree body. His pale lips struggled to form a smile. This mark has won. The sharp willow tree screech sounded again. Dozens of repaired willow branches frantically rushed toward Huatsubing, seemingly somewhat desperate. Huatsubing lowered his head slightly, looking at the broken spear and his shattered body. Deep helplessness and bitterness appeared in his eyes. He had won, but so what? Without laws he was ultimately still immortal. Even if he could defeat Kujuan once, 10 times, 100 times, he still couldn't kill it. Humans in the end still couldn't overcome deities. Huatsubing raised his head, calmly watching the swarming willow branches. He tried to straighten his chest, making his somewhat hunched body stand more upright. Just as those willow branches were about to touch Huatsubing's body, a red figure rapidly descended from the sky. Sharp wind blades emitted piercing hums, cutting these willow branches in half in the blink of an eye. Huatsubing was slightly startled. At the center of the gale, the familiar red-haired girl landed like a meteorite, raising fine stone fragments. The human ceiling-level aura arrived before Huatsubing. Made it in time. Chloe glanced at the willow branch fragments she had cut down on the ground and let out a long breath. She looked back. Champion Mer, you alone could beat that monster into this state. I, Chloe, sincerely admire you this time. Seeing Chloe's familiar face, Huatsubing came to his senses and immediately asked. You're here, but where is Lin Chia? Has the Queen Mother of the West arrived? The Queen Mother is too far away and I wasn't with her, so naturally she couldn't get here so quickly. Hearing this, disappointment appeared on Huatsubing's face. Without the Queen Mother, even with more human ceiling-level fighters, they had no way to deal with Kujuan. However, Lin Chia has already taken action. Chloe pointed toward Kujuan's direction. Huatsubing turned to look there. Between the not-yet-repaired willow tree trunk, a figure in green flashed, one hand holding something in the air, with terrifying mental power waves spreading frantically. What is he doing? Sealing Kujuan. Sealing. We can't kill it, so we can only temporarily seal it. This way it's no different from being dead. Chloe shrugged. It's all thanks to you, Marquis, for directly injuring it so severely. Otherwise, trying to seal it would be as difficult as climbing to heaven. At least that's what Lin Chia said. Sealing a deity? Is that really possible? I don't know, we'll have to see what he can do. On the other side, Lin Chia stood on the broken body of Kujuan, one palm pressed against the trunk below him. Countless fine causal threads followed the wood's texture, frantically drilling into its body. Behind him in the void, causeless cause, slowly rotated, a mysterious and profound energy rippling outward. After losing predetermined effect, Lin Chia's mastery of causeless cause had actually improved. With his limited mental power, trying to manage 2 abilities simultaneously was too strenuous. Focusing entirely on one allowed him to exert much stronger power. Let's see how many causal threads it takes to seal you. The broken tree trunk gradually repaired itself, engulfing Lin Chia's figure. His eyes slowly closed, like a stone sculpture hidden in the darkness. At the same time, the severely injured Kuzen regained consciousness. Dense willow branches danced in the air as it attempted to move its roots deeply embedded in the ground forward, but suddenly froze in place. Because before its eyes appeared a man, someone who seemed somewhat familiar, yet it couldn't immediately recall who he was. That man looked at it, his lips curving slightly upward as he spoke gently. How is it? Have you reached the end of the Grand Line and found my treasure? Kuzen's dancing willow branches suddenly froze in midair. It stared blankly at the man, and in a daze, a sealed memory surged into its mind. It's him. The pirate King Zhang San. Hadn't it traveled laboriously from beyond the realm to find the legendary treasure left by pirate King Zhang San? And now he appears here in person. As this memory became clearer, An invisible thread of cause and effect lit up along the patterns of Kuzan's trunk, beginning to restrain its form. But soon a powerful force surged from within the trunk, seemingly trying instinctively to break free from this causal thread, and the face of Pirate King Zhang-san began to blur. Just as Kuzan was about to break free, a second man emerged from nothingness. "Old Ku, I want to eat fish." The moment this voice appeared, another sealed memory surged into Kuzan's mind. It looked at the man with the slicked-back hair, feeling a mixture of emotions. Brother Zhang. The pale face in Kuzan's tree crown emitted a harsh, distorted growl. "Do you remember summer rain by the Great Ming Lake?" A third figure emerged from nothingness, a gentle voice echoing in Kuzan's mind. A third sealed memory unlocked, overlapping with the previous two, causing Kuzan's consciousness to frantically shuttle between falsehood and falsehood. Each past seemed so real, yet somehow these memories seemed a bit off. "Old Ku, is Ma Dongmei's family living in apartment 322 upstairs?" "Secretary General, you must learn foreign languages." "I also want to learn foreign languages, it's good to learn one more." "Old Ku, I want to play basketball." "Everyone, tonight's expenses are covered by Master Ku." "You're so flirtatious." More and more figures emerged from nothingness. They all seemed to have the same face, yet they were different people. As they appeared, dense threads of cause and effect lit up on Kuzan's surface, like a giant cocoon of intertwined threads, trapping it inside. The willow branches froze completely in the sky, and the flowing, colorful mist gradually dissipated. The enormous shadow of the willow tree stood rigid like a stone sculpture. Seeing this, Huatsubing finally let go of the anxiety he had been holding. As the tension released, Huatsubing's consciousness immediately blurred. His body went limp and he fell into the pool of blood. Seeing this, Chloe cried out in alarm and immediately rushed forward to support him. But as she reached out, she pulled a crimson heart fragment directly from Huatsubing's chest. "You?" Chloe froze in place. Just now, seeing Huatsubing still standing, she thought he wasn't badly injured. But now it appeared that besides his heart, he had at least 4 or 5 fatal wounds elsewhere on his body. The fact that he could still stand just now was nothing short of a miracle. Huatsubing's face was extremely pale. His gaze slowly swept across the surroundings as he weakly asked, "Has Hu Jia arrived?" "No." Chloe frowned and said, "After Lin Chier and I destroyed the star fragments in the sky, we noticed the explosive fluctuations here and teleported directly using our oath. Wu Chuan, Hu Jia, and the others should still be in the carriage on the ground." Huatsubing didn't speak. He silently looked in the direction of Lin Chier and Kuzan, his hand in the pool of blood trembling as it curled up. "Pai Lord." Just then a familiar voice came from the distance. Zhang Yuwu and Yen Zhong, covered in slime, were staggering across the shattered ground, rushing toward them. "My lord, are you all right?" Zhang Yuwu shouted from afar. When he got closer, his gaze fell on the large pool of blood, and his pupils contracted slightly. "Take me to find Hu Jia." "What?" "Take me to find Hu Jia," Huatsubing said through gritted teeth. In his hand he tightly clutched a white chess piece, though now it was stained crimson by the pool of blood. Yen Zhong and Zhang Yuwu stood frozen in place. Yen Zhong was the first to react, immediately reaching out to help Huatsubing up, but was stopped by Zhang Yuwu. "What are you doing?" Yen Zhong frowned and shouted, "My lord's body is already shattered. If you move him now, do you want him to die on the spot?" Zhang Yuwu glared back, shouting equally loudly. Yen Zhong's lips trembled slightly at a loss for words. There was only one reason why Huatsubing was so desperate to find Hu Jia. He knew he was dying and needed Hu Jia to transfer his mental world into his own mind before he completely lost his life force. Only this way could he achieve spiritual immortality and fulfill his promise to complete the chess game 2,000 years later. But after losing the power of domination and pushing himself too far, Huatsubing's body had already been shattered into a pulp during the battle. He was now alive purely through willpower. If they tried to carry him now, he probably wouldn't survive until meeting Hu Jia. Everyone was suddenly at an impasse. The crimson blood beneath Hu Xubing continued to spread outward. Looking at the extremely anxious Yan Zhong and the others, his expression became calm. At this moment, everyone could be anxious but not him. Chloe, cut open the ground beneath me and carry me with it to find Hu Jia. That's too risky. Even if we move you along with the ground, you won't be able to pass through the spatial vortex. Chloe's voice grew quieter and a look of helplessness appeared on her young face. Although she had traveled to many places, she was still a young girl with immature judgment. The scene before her had exceeded her understanding. How could he have endured when his body had been shattered so badly in battle? Didn't he feel the pain? Hearing Chloe's response, Hu Xubing's face grew even paler. Alright, you wait here. I'll go find Hu Jia right now and bring him back. Chloe came to her senses and spoke immediately. Hu Xubing didn't speak. His consciousness began to gradually blur, his eyes fixed on the 3 layers of thunder clouds dispersing in the sky, his face showing resignation. His time was running out. Seeing Hu Xubing in this state, Zhang Yu's eyes turned completely red. He repeatedly pounded the ground with his fists until they were covered in blood. Why is it like this? Why is it like this? At this moment, Yan Zhong slowly raised his head and said hoarsely, My lord, actually there is another way. Soul concealment. After listening to Yan Zhong's words, Hu Xubing's eyes gradually brightened in the pool of blood. Not only could he preserve his soul from death, but he could also imbue his lifetime of power into a weapon. The only flaw was that the process was too painful. If he couldn't endure it, his soul would scatter completely, and even if Hu Jia arrived in time, he couldn't save his spirit. But pain meant nothing to Hu Xubing. As long as he could preserve his power as much as possible, it would be worth any suffering. Use this method, Hu Xubing said firmly. My lord, that involves skinning, extracting bones, cutting out the heart and draining blood. Zhang Yu's hands trembled uncontrollably, seemingly unable to bear it. Skinning and bone extraction, what is there to fear? Hu Xubing spoke hoarsely. My bones are already shattered, my heart likewise. You only need to skin me and take my blood. This level of pain I can endure. Zhang Yu, Yan Zhong and Chloe exchanged glances, all seeing the reluctance in each other's eyes. This was Hu Xubing, the champion marquis beloved by all people. Skinning, bone extraction, heart removal, blood draining. Who could bear to do this? I'll do it. At that moment, a voice came from behind. Gong Yangwan was walking calmly toward them in a traditional robe. None of you can bring yourselves to do it, so naturally I must, Gong Yangwan said flatly. I've tortured so many people, I have experience with skinning and bone extraction. If your hands shake, you'll only make him suffer more. Don't worry, I'll be quick. Seeing Gong Yangwan appear, Hu Xubing's expression actually relaxed. As if remembering something, his right hand slowly rose from the pool of blood. Gong Yangwan, take this. What is this? Gong Yangwan frowned, looking at the heart in Hu Xubing's hand. That willow monster can replicate any living being, perfectly creating corresponding physical bodies out of nothing. Don't you need a body that can both carry your brother's soul and has no master? This should help you. Looking at the hand extended from the blood pool, Gong Yangwan stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. He is helping me. He fought through Kujuan's main body, penetrating deep into the core of the trunk with just himself and a spear, just to retrieve this heart for Gong Yangzhua? Why? Gong Yangwan asked in confusion. I'm just a man-eating female demon. Why do you help me time and again? What benefit does this bring you? In this world, if one always calculates gains and losses before acting, it would be too heartless, Hu Xubing slowly said. However, I do hope that you will take over the Demon Suppression Bureau for me in the future. I've always believed that you're not evil by nature, just too full of resentment. If that could be properly resolved with your decisiveness and courage, You should be able to keep the bureau strong for 1,000 years. As it turns out, I wasn't wrong about you. Gong Yangwan's pupils contracted slightly. She stared at Hua Tsubing for a long time, her expression incredibly complex. Finally, she extended her trembling hands and accepted the blood-covered heart, then bent her knees and knelt in the pool of blood. I, Gong Yangwan, along with my brother Gong Yangzhua, kneel to thank the Marquis for saving our lives. Her forehead struck the bloody ground with a dull thud. This time she called him Marquis with genuine sincerity and complete submission. Do it now, Hua Tsubing said hoarsely. After my death, the heart-returning insect will lose its effect, and from now on no one will constrain you anymore. Also take my face away. Try to delay letting the world know about my death in battle. Gong Yangwan slowly stood up. Her green robe was now stained crimson with blood. She picked up a broken spear nearby, walked to Hua Tsubing, and her pale knuckles tightened. My lord, please endure this. She raised the spear tip and thrust it violently into the body lying in the blood pool. Bang! A hand broke through the tree trunk, easily tearing open a gap, and Lin Chia's figure flashed out. He turned to look behind him. In his vision, the enormous willow tree was now wrapped in countless threads of cause and effect, standing motionless on the earth like an ancient specimen. Lin Chia rubbed his temples as a wave of dizziness washed over him, nearly causing him to fall from the air. Creating so many causeless causes at once had almost exhausted all his mental energy. If Hua Tsubing hadn't severely wounded Kujuan beforehand, trying to seal it this way would have been nearly impossible. But now Kujuan had completely lost its mobility. When the gods of the celestial court returned, they could easily kill it. Lin Chia scanned the surroundings, looking for the others. Finally, his gaze fell on a certain spot and his body suddenly trembled. That is. Lin Chia's pupils contracted as he quickly leaped from Kujuan's surface and rushed toward a particular direction. Brother Chia? Seeing Lin Chia descend from the sky, Zhang Yuwu, with a deathly pale face, gritted his teeth and said, The Marquis. Lin Chia passed through Zhang Yuwu and Yen Zhong, stopping at the pool of blood. Seeing the bloody scene before him, his expression showed a hint of emotion. Brother Chia, the Marquis couldn't wait for the heart-wandering technique. So, Yen Zhong stood with his back to Hua Tsubing, his voice trembling. Even though he knew Hua Tsubing wouldn't truly die but would conceal his soul in a weapon, he still didn't have the courage to watch the young general he had followed for years being flayed alive like an execution. Lin Chia slowly closed his eyes and sighed helplessly. Indeed, it had all happened as foretold. Lin Chia had seen Hua Tsubing transformed into a heroic spirit in the future and had heard about the painful process of converting a dying person into a heroic spirit. He knew this day would come eventually, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. The Marquis won't die, Lin Chia softly consoled them. He will become the strongest heroic spirit on this land, guarding our national fortune. One day he will return. As Gong Yangwan followed Yen Zhong's instructions to melt bone and blood into the weapon, Hua Tsubing's form completely disappeared from this world. The dim sunset light filtered through the rising dust, leaving only a broken spear standing in the blood-soaked earth. Clay. Gong Yangwan pulled out the spear, and a resonant hum emanated from the weapon, as if containing an indomitable fighting spirit roaring in the wind. Next, the melted weapon must be placed in the flow of fortune for 2 years of nurturing, after which the soul can be revived. Yen Zhong hoarsely recited the final words from the soul concealment technique. In this era, where is the place with the most abundant fortune? Lin Chia asked. Yen Zhong and Zhang Yuwu exchanged glances and said simultaneously, Chang'an. A few days later in Chang'an, the east gradually brightened, and the brightest red star in the sky had already disappeared. The winter cold seemed to be fading away. In the reviving city of Chang'an, many citizens lined up in rows, walking one by one toward the city gate. The soldiers at the gate swept their gaze across the crowd, when suddenly their peripheral vision caught two carriages racing toward them across the distant ground, causing their eyes to narrow instantly. One soldier walked to the center of the gate, intending to stop the two carriages, but after seeing the markings on the carriage compartments up close, his face immediately lit up with joy as he turned and shouted, "The Marquis has returned." Hearing these words, the soldiers on both sides immediately cleared a path into the city. The citizens who had been queuing to leave also scattered to both sides of the road, excitedly watching the two carriages speeding into the city. "Welcome back from your triumphant return, Marquis." "Triumphant return? Didn't the Marquis leave without going to war? Does one need to fight a war to return triumphantly?" "That's true. Marquis, this is a hen we raised at home. Please take it back to nourish your soldiers." "Marquis, I have an unmarried daughter at home. She's 16 years old. Would you?" The enthusiastic crowd tried to surround the two speeding carriages, but neither carriage slowed down at all. Under the galloping horses, they roared into the city of Chang'an. Lin Chia lifted a corner of the curtain and after a long while, let out a deep sigh. "Shouldn't we announce the Marquis's situation to the world?" Hu Jia asked puzzledly. "No." Lin Chia and Yan Zhong shook their heads simultaneously. When Hua Tsubing left Chang'an, the Zhenyici had just been established. If we announce the news of the Marquis's death in battle now, both the Han Dynasty and Zhenyici would be thrown into panic. Besides, we can't explain how he died or who the enemy was. Everyone fell silent. But even so, the Marquis can't keep staying out of sight forever, right? What about the Imperial Palace? Lin Chia's gaze fell on the carriage ahead, saying nothing. The two carriages drove into Hua Tsubing's residence, which had once been the interview site for Zhenyici's first recruitment of new members. But after so many days, no new people had come, and it had been completely abandoned. Lin Chia stepped down from the carriage. From the compartment of the carriage ahead, Gong Yongwan emerged carrying the broken spear. The two exchanged glances and Gong Yongwan nodded slightly before walking toward the house. Moments later, a figure wearing armor pushed open the door. Seeing that familiar face, everyone's pupils contracted slightly, as if that man was standing before them again. Marquis. Seeing the almost identical Hua Tsubing before him, Zhang Yuwu's eyes immediately reddened. "It's 90% similar," Lin Chia commented seriously. "The face is completely fine, just the height is a bit different. Just put something in the shoes and it will be perfect." This Hua Tsubing before them was naturally impersonated by Gong Yongwan. Before forging Hua Tsubing into the weapon, she had, as per Hua Tsubing's request, taken his face and swallowed it. Although she hadn't completely consumed Hua Tsubing's body and couldn't obtain Emperor's command, using this face was no problem. "But I'm not very familiar with the Marquis's past. If someone inquires in detail, I'm afraid I'll slip up," Gong Yongwan said solemnly. "No matter, Yuwu and I will accompany you at all times," Yan Zhong said seriously. "Now that Zhenyici has been established, there aren't actually many occasions requiring the Marquis's presence, and you don't need to fight enemies. You just need to appear occasionally to let people know the Marquis is still alive. Indeed, and most of the time you should be active within Zhenyici as Gong Yongwan. When Zhenyici is on the right track and the appropriate time comes, then the Marquis can die of illness, and you can naturally take command of the entire Zhenyici." Lin Chia paused, then continued. "Playing the role of the Marquis while being yourself is not an easy task. Gong Yongwan, are you really sure you want to lead Zhenyici in the Marquis's place? Once you take this step, there's no turning back, and this step might last 2,000 years. Gong Yongwan turned slightly, looking at the face in the bronze mirror that she had once despised the most, feeling momentarily dazed. She glanced at the wooden box in her arms and slowly said, "I said before, as long as it helps me save Ajua, I'm willing to do anything. The Marquis gave my sister and brother a second life. I will fulfill his dying wish." Lin Chia nodded slightly. He stepped forward to Gong Yongwan and looking at the wooden box said, What the Marquis took was Kujuan's heart. Now Kujuan's main body isn't dead, just sealed, so it still exists. If the main body died, it would also die in this box like those offspring. I will completely sever the causal connection between this heart and the main body for you. Only this way can we be absolutely certain. Thank you. Gong Yongwan solemnly handed the wooden box to Lin Jie. Lin Jie opened the box, and threads of causality floated out from the heart inside, extending into the distant void, tightly connected to Kujuan's main body thousands of miles away. Causeless cause floated in Lin Jie's palm. Several strands of causal threads extended out, directly cutting off those connections to the main body, linking them together into a circular ring that floated quietly around the heart. After completing all this, Lin Jie nodded and returned the wooden box to Gong Yongwan. With this, there is no more connection between this heart and the Ku system. However, I must remind you, this thing is from beyond our realm after all. It can help you rebuild your brother's body, but whether this new body is truly human in the real sense remains uncertain. It might be very ordinary, or it might be very special. Special beyond anyone's imagination. No matter what, he is still my brother. Gong Yongwan's eyes were full of determination. She turned to Hu Jia and respectfully said, Master Hu, please help me separate Ajua's spirit and transfer it into this body. Hu Jia nodded, taking the stone sun from his waist and placing it to his lips. He slowly began to play, and the melodious tune echoed throughout the residence. Having let down all defenses, Gong Yongwan's eyes gradually became unfocused. Moments later, a blurry light floated out from her body and merged into the heart in the wooden box. The heart seemed to come alive, beginning to grow dense blood vessels around it, along with a large amount of muscle tissue. Stark white bones were constructed in the flesh out of thin air. It was using Gong Yongju's spiritual world to recreate a body that belonged to him. Seeing such a miraculous sight, everyone curiously widened their eyes. Hu Jia's sun music gradually ceased and Gong Yongwan came back to her senses. Looking at the familiar figure gradually taking shape in her arms, excitement appeared in her eyes. Kujuan's power of replication was incredibly strong, and it only took a few moments to complete Gong Yongju's body. Gong Yongwan tightly embraced the young man in her arms, her eyes filled with tension. She gently patted his back and called out softly, Shua, Shua. After a moment, Gong Yongju's eyelashes trembled slightly, then his eyes slowly opened. Looking at Gong Yongwan's face before him, he froze in place. Shua, do you recognize me? Gong Yongwan's hands began to tremble uncontrollably, her voice somewhat hoarse. Sister. Hearing these two words, tears uncontrollably welled up in Gong Yongwan's eyes. She suddenly hugged the young man tightly, fell to her knees and facing that broken spear began to sob loudly. Everyone had never seen Gong Yongwan's emotions so intense. For a moment they looked at each other, feeling both joy and emotion. After a long while, Gong Yongwan's emotions gradually calmed. She put Gong Yongju down, and everyone could finally see the young man's face clearly. Gong Yongju's face was somewhat similar to Gong Yongwan's. Though he was a young man, his features were delicate and refined but not effeminate. Instead, like his sister, there was a resolute and determined look between his brows. Gong Yongju, also with reddened eyes, fell to his knees with a thud and kowtowed heavily to the broken spear. This junior, Gong Yongju, kneels in gratitude to the Marquis for giving me new life. Seeing Gong Yongju's actions, Gong Yongwan didn't stop him. She knew her brother had always admired Hu Xubing, and her own life had been saved by him, so these kowtows were well deserved. After completing a full 8 kowtows, Gong Yongju stood up again and knelt before Lin Jie, Hu Jia and the others in the courtyard, kowtowing again. I kneel in gratitude to all of you for giving me new life. Gong Yongju will never forget this. Seeing this, Lin Jie quickly tried to help the young man up from the ground, but Gong Yongju stubbornly refused to rise. He insisted on completing 8 more kowtows before being pulled up by Lin Jie. His kowtows were so sincere that his forehead was covered in blood. Lin Chia, both amused and exasperated, helped wipe away the blood while saying, "There's no need for such formality, we didn't help that much." Before he could finish speaking, Lin Chia suddenly froze. He stared at the wound on the young man's forehead, where faint wisps of black energy were dispersing. If one didn't look closely at close range, it would be extremely difficult to notice. Black energy? Could there be hidden problems with this body? Lin Chia's brows immediately furrowed. He moved closer to the wound on Gong Yongzhuo's forehead, and a certain smell entered his nostrils. This smell wasn't the foul odor of the K system, but rather, killing intent? Killing intent. Lin Chia seemed to realize something, a thought flashing through his mind like lightning. He stared blankly at the young Gong Yongzhuo before him, standing frozen like a statue. There was no mistake. This killing intent was almost identical to the murderous aura that surrounded Chao Yuan when he transformed into a berserker in the future. Could it be that Gong Yongzhuo was actually the Black King? Lin Chia clearly remembered hearing the truth about the Black King from the gold star of Venus in the heavenly court. The Black King sealed within Chao Yuan was actually a mortal from thousands of years ago who had failed to reach the supreme realm. At that time, Lin Chia had wondered how a mortal could possibly skip the step of becoming a god and directly challenge the supreme realm. And after failing to reach the supreme realm, this mortal's mind began to deteriorate, becoming a monster that only knew killing, hence being called the Black King. But looking at the young Gong Yongzhuo before him, Lin Chia instantly understood everything. If Gong Yongzhuo was the Black King, then it all made sense. From the beginning he wasn't truly human. His body was made from Kuzhuan's heart, a product from beyond the domain, existing between the K system and humans. That's why in the future he could bypass the threshold of godhood and directly face the supreme realm without laws. And the mental breakdown after failing to reach the supreme realm was also expected. The K system inherently possessed mental contamination powers. If Gong Yongzhuo would truly reach the point of challenging the supreme realm through his own efforts, he would inevitably break the balance between human and K system within this body, causing his consciousness to sink. Just as he feared, Gong Yongzhuo, revived in this way, was no longer purely human, but an anomaly beyond everyone's understanding. "Lord Lin, what's wrong?" Gong Yongzhuo tilted his head and asked curiously, "Is there something on my face?" Lin Chia came back to his senses and looked at Gong Yongzhuo with complex emotions. "It's nothing. In the future, no matter what happens, you must protect your sister, understand?" "Of course." Gong Yongzhuo replied without hesitation. "I will not only protect my sister but also protect the world. I want to become a great person like the Marquis." Lin Chia patted his head and slowly stood up. Gong Yongwan had already walked up to Gong Yongzhuo and said softly, "After your sister finishes her business, I'll take you to eat something delicious, okay?" "Okay." Gong Yongwan nodded to Lin Chia, gripping the broken spear in her hand. A faint humming sound emanated from it. "What should I do?" Beneath Chang'an lies the most prosperous part of the Han dynasty's dragon vein. If you bury this weapon which has been forged with blood and bone into the ground, the Marquis will be immersed in the flow of destiny, nurturing his divine soul, Yan Zhong slowly explained. "Leave it to me." Gong Yongwan's expression changed as she placed one palm on the ground in the courtyard. The earth suddenly melted into mud, continuously extending toward the core, and a pitch-black deep well appeared in everyone's view. She pointed the spear tip at the muddy surface, and the blood-stained spear shaft automatically sank into the ground, eventually disappearing from sight. After completing all this, Gong Yongwan stood up and covered the deep well with a thick wooden board, making it convenient to check on the Marquis's divine soul years later. "Well, I'll excuse myself for a while." Gong Yongwan smiled and took Gong Yongzhuo's hand, walking directly toward the streets of Chang'an outside. Everyone naturally didn't disturb this reunion of siblings separated by death, watching as their figures disappeared without a trace. Lin Chia looked at this scene and murmured, "The Marquis has transformed into a guardian spirit to protect the destiny, and I've hidden him. Now the causal paradox of the Black King has also formed. This way the history belonging to Chao Yuan will be completely concealed." "What did you say?" Yan Zhong asked puzzledly beside him. "Nothing." Lin Chia looked up at the sky. Under the azure dome, the brightest red star had already disappeared. After pondering for a moment, he slowly said, "The Death Star has been extinguished and the gods of the heavenly court should return. It's time to find him." "Find him? Who?" "The celestial venerable of spiritual treasures." Misty spiritual energy surged continuously, and the vast ancient celestial court sank between the boundless snowy mountains. 3 figures flashed through the void, stopping above the jade pool, looking at the blood-colored land below with deeply furrowed brows. "The jade pool, how did it become like this?" The Virtue Heavenly Lord spoke gravely. "Where is the Queen Mother of the West?" A stream of green light rose from the jade pool. The Queen Mother of the West, wearing a gold-threaded purple robe and holding the Kunlun mirror, walked before the 3 heavenly lords and took a deep breath. "Please forgive my offense, heavenly lords." The Queen Mother immediately recounted everything about Cthulhu and the bloodbath in the celestial court in detail. The 3 heavenly lords fell silent simultaneously. Besides that Death Star, there are actually other extraterrestrial gods infiltrating the mortal realm, and they directly attacked the jade pool? The Virtue Heavenly Lord snorted coldly. How utterly audacious. The origins of these extraterrestrial gods are too strange. We cannot act rashly and need to plan carefully. The Primordial Heavenly Lord pondered aloud. The Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord immediately asked, "You just said they came for the immortality and eternity pills? Where are the pills now?" "The immortality pill has returned to the jade pool, but the eternity pill was accidentally consumed by my handmaiden Jialon." "It was eaten?" The Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord was stunned. "Where is she now?" "She is currently at the jade pool." The Queen Mother paused, then continued, "There is also someone accompanying her who wishes to meet with a heavenly lord." The 3 heavenly lords exchanged glances. "Meet a heavenly lord? Who is he?" "His background is very special. The world has not fallen into chaos thanks to his intervention. Also, he is the one who fed the eternity pill to Jialon." The Queen Mother didn't elaborate further. "If that's the case, let him come," said the Primordial Heavenly Lord, curious about this person. After hesitating briefly, the Queen Mother gathered her courage and said, "He said to avoid unnecessary karmic entanglements. He wishes to meet only with the Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord." "Only the Spiritual Treasure?" The Virtue and Primordial Heavenly Lords were surprised, their expressions immediately turning strange. The Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord also looked puzzled, but he nodded. "If that's the case, I'll go meet this mysterious person who turned the tide. Let's see who he really is." Under the Queen Mother's guidance, the Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord passed through the empty jade pool, finally descending to the ground before a courtyard at the edge. Creaking. Before he moved, the heavy door opened automatically. In the spacious courtyard, a figure in green was already seated behind a stone table. Behind him stood a young woman wearing a blue Han-style robe. Both faces were completely unfamiliar to the Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord. As the Queen Mother had said, they were not deities but mortals from the human world. The Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord walked to the stone table, his gaze slightly concentrated, and exclaimed in surprise, "A primordial spirit embryo? How is this possible?" Junior Lin Chia pays respects to the Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord. Lin Chia stood up and bowed respectfully, while Jialon immediately began serving tea to the Heavenly Lord. The Spiritual Treasure Heavenly Lord seemed to realize something. "No wonder the Queen Mother said your background is special. You've come from the future?" "Junior has come from 2,000 years in the future. intending to join forces with you, Heavenly Lord, to play a grand game of chess. The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord slowly sat down, his gaze penetrating through the rising steam, carefully examining Lin Chia before him. Coming back from 2,000 years in the future is no easy feat. In this grand game of chess, who is your opponent? Cthulhu, the three-pillar gods. Lin Chia added, you must have just encountered their people in the outer realm. The Death Star. The Death Star is merely an ordinary deity among them. They are a group of gods from unknown places, monsters that shouldn't exist in this world. Among them, some can easily corrupt a top-tier divine realm, some can manipulate the world in their palms, some can stand at the highest point of the river of time, all-knowing and all-seeing. Hearing Lin Chia's description, the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord's brows tightened. Is this Cthulhu really as powerful as you describe? What they can do far exceeds what pale language can describe. Lin Chia lifted the teacup before him and took a small sip. Hundreds of years from now they will attempt to invade Earth once but will not succeed. What we truly need to be vigilant about is the crisis 2,000 years from now. I came to this era to conceal history favorable to humans and create more chess pieces. The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord raised an eyebrow. From what you're saying, you want me to be one of your chess pieces? Junior wouldn't dare. Lin Chia smiled politely. However, there are indeed some matters that require the Heavenly Lord's assistance. If that's the case, why not call upon the primordial and virtue Heavenly Lords? Why seek only me? Junior and the Heavenly Lord will have karmic connections in the future. Entrusting this matter to you is best. If too many karmic ties are involved, Junior's identity would be exposed. What do you need me to do? Lin Chia placed his teacup back on the stone table, looked into the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord's eyes, and spoke deliberately. I request the Heavenly Lord to enter the true self reincarnation. Upon hearing the words, true self reincarnation, the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord's pupils contracted slightly. He remained silent for a long time, then finally sighed deeply. True self reincarnation. I just created this technique a few days ago, and today you come asking me to enter reincarnation. Is this truly fate and karma? Heavenly Lord, what exactly is the purpose of this true self reincarnation? The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord gave Lin Chia a strange look. You don't even know what true self reincarnation does, yet you come to persuade me to enter it? True self reincarnation is a technique I created to accumulate reincarnation power through numerous cycles of rebirth, breaking through to the highest realm and reaching a higher level. However, I have only recently entered the highest realm and lack sufficient insight, so this technique is currently just an idea, not yet perfected. Lin Chia nodded thoughtfully. After the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord returned from the true self reincarnation in the future. Although he hadn't crossed the barrier beyond the highest realm, his power had already become the greatest in the world. If Bai Pongpong's generation of Heavenly Lords hadn't awakened but instead reincarnated a few more times, they might truly have reached the legendary realm of Holy Lord Yelon. The Holy Lord Yelon of the second invasion could defeat the Cthulhu pantheon and, borrowing the power of heaven, seal the entire clan on the moon. His power definitely exceeded the scope of the highest realm. If the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord could reach that level, their chances of victory would increase by at least 30%. From what you're saying, I entered the true self-reincarnation in the future and awakened? The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord guessed Lin Chia's meaning. Correct. Lin Chia sighed. But you were just one step away from that realm. The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord nodded, his eyes emitting a faint light. It seems the path I chose was not wrong. In that case, I will enter reincarnation on a chosen day to seek this method of saving the world. As the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord finished speaking, in Lin Chia's vision, a thread of karma spanning thousands of years slowly formed into a circle and disappeared into the river of time. The spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord's true self reincarnation began because of Lin Chia and would end because of Lin Chia. With this, the karmic paradox belonging to the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord was completed, similarly disappearing from the observation of the key of the gate.